So, welcome to the Sleep Better Challenge. And there were different ways that we could have put this together. One way is that we all get into a room and I give you as much information as I can over an hour. However, that would have been quite an overload of information, but also it wouldn't give you the opportunity to try some of this new stuff, try some things and experiment just on the things that work really, really well for you. So instead, what this video series is about giving you bite-sized nuggets of knowledge that you can experiment upon day after day after day after day for the next 2 weeks. So in terms of this, there'll be a 5-minute content. You experiment on it, and then you can post it in the group so that you can start to say what were the things that worked for you. Or also, if there's any questions that you've got, you can submit those, and I'll be checking those every day to see if there's an extra video that we need to put on after the 14-day challenge is finished. So that when we meet face to face, there's a section where we can start to really drill down onto what is important for you. So for me, everything comes about as this acronym. And the acronym for me is clarinet. And the first part of the clarinet is C. So C for me means circadian rhythm. Weird, strange word. And what I'll try and do with all these weird, strange sleeping type words is make them as simplified as possible so that I can understand them. And hopefully I can impart that knowledge as best I can for you. So circadian is broken down into two parts. One is circa, which for the linguists amongst you know this means about, and dia means day. So circadian is about a day. And rhythm suggests that every part of our human being, in terms of sleep and waking, is based on a rhythm. So when it happens roughly, and I say roughly about 24 hours a day, and you say, well, hang on a minute, we've definitely only got 24 hours a day. I know we seem like we're working harder than that, but we actually only have 24 hours a day, which says that every day that it resets itself again through light or through eating or through different things. So that's one rhythm that we have, this circadian rhythm. And another rhythm that we have in our body is called the sleep cycle. So currently I'm awake, and when I go into this sleep cycle, there's this time when I go into this hypnagogic state. When I move into stage 1, I start to have that nodding dog face. And I'm here, easy to be woken. And yeah, if you've seen any students or if you've seen any people that you're hanging around with or on the bus or whatever, and they're just into that, and they do that. Stage 1, easy to be woken, but the transition between wakefulness and unconsciousness. So that would be there. And then it moves to stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4. And then we've got REM sleep, which is slightly different. So you've got this non-REM sleep and REM sleep. So REM sleep is the part where we dream mostly. That's where it is. And my body pretty much is paralyzed. And they think that's to stop us acting out our dreams, whatever we're dreaming of. And so this phase of deep sleep. So let's look at what that does. So deep sleep is about memory consolidation, processing any learning that you've had for the day and any emotions that you've got. There's a physical recovery where growth hormone is elicited, and we can start to that process of repairing the body differently. Our blood sugar gets balanced, and our metabolism is starting to work itself out too. Our immune system is energized. So if we go without sleep and we're sleep deprived only a little bit, then they've noticed that there's about a 500% drop in our immune system, which is the thing that's keeping us alive. But I think the thing for me that fascinates me most is this thing called brain detoxification. And we often hear this in January where people go on this detox and they stop drinking alcohol or they stop eating stuff or whatever they're doing. But actually the brain is doing that. It's cleaning itself, called autophagy, every night. And it's that process in deep sleep which is making it a fascinating part, which for this third of our life that we spend asleep, I think is the bit that we need to really focus on. So circadian rhythm about a day, looking at these cycles. And they think that each cycle, so you go through this deep sleep, and so non-REM and REM sleep, and they think that it takes about 90 minutes. So each cycle is roughly 90 minutes. It's different for everyone, actually. So you may have a 78-minute cycle, mine may be 81 minutes, some people 95. And typically that gets you then go from stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or deep REM sleep, back to stage 2. So after this paralysis where we're so vulnerable, we then go back to stage 2, which is I can be woken up. And that's often when people will wake up to go for a wee, wake up just to go, is everything okay? So start to notice that. So one thing, if you wake up in the middle of the night, is most likely you'll have gone through a cycle. You won't wake up in the deeper phases of sleep, but you're most likely waking up in a lighter phase where you go, okay, I'm just checking out my camp. I need to know that I'm safe because I'm vulnerable if I'm in deep phase and I'm paralyzed to act. Okay, so that's one kind of understanding. And then when we wake up, I must be in this light sleep, which means I can just get back. I'm safe. I can get back now to deep sleep. So that's one concept. So in terms of that, how does that link then to another C, which for me is this concept called caffeine? So what is caffeine? Caffeine, I've found that some people get out of bed and the first thing they do is they plunge straight for caffeine and they go for a cup of tea, cup of coffee, and that's one of the first things they do to get themselves revved up and ready for the day. And I think this is fascinating. So remember, we go through these cycles about 90 minutes. We then have about 5 of these cycles throughout the night. Deep sleep, non-deep sleep. And really fascinatingly, they've noticed that caffeine has a half-life of about 6 to 8 hours. So what that means is, if I have a coffee at 4, 6 hours later at 10, half of the caffeine is still in my system. Now, what does caffeine do? Increases alertness, it increases our performance. It's a performance enhancer, increases our reaction time. So therefore, it's making us like this. So if half of that is still in my system at 10 o'clock when I want to go to sleep, then in the times when I'm trying to sleep, my body's saying, I now must be awake. So one of the things that I would recommend is cutting coffee or tea, any caffeinated substances, no later than 2 p.m. And I know that some people out there, some of you will be going, you know what, I can have a coffee at 10 o'clock at night and I can be asleep at 10 past 10. And I would say, yes, I know that's true. And I know that people could do that and sleep. But when I say sleep is, I don't mean go through the whole range of the sleep ladder. I mean, typically they go into lighter sleep. Very rarely, if I put a brain scan on your brain, on your head, and I'd start to track which phase of sleep are you in now, what often happens, that deep phase, the memory consolidation, the brain clearing, the metabolism shift, the muscle change. People don't go into that after caffeine. So that's strategy 1. Cut caffeine by 2 p.m. And then a lot of people go, I've got to get up and the first thing I've got to do is rush for some coffee. Well, the reason why we get up is this hormone called cortisol, the stress hormone. So what stress hormone does is says, oh, man, I'm lying in bed and I've been in bed for 8 hours, say. Now this stress hormone forces me to get out of bed. And I'm out. But the cortisol is really, really high and it ramps up to keep us awake and moving and doing stuff in the morning. If I have a coffee then, the effects are slightly lower. So I don't get the same boost. I don't get the same impact of having a coffee. And our tolerance levels actually start to increase because I just become more tolerant to caffeine. So if you want to have the caffeine hit, which is going to have the stuff that we talked about before. So some of the benefits of caffeine, which I'll put in the notes so you can have a little look at the benefits of that. But some of the strategies for when to take caffeine are really powerful. You want it when cortisol is at a low point. So typically around 10 o'clock or at least an hour after you've woken up. So then the cortisol has dropped a little bit, and then you take the caffeine, and then if that's the way you want to go, and then you can get the benefits of caffeine as a result of the cortisol dropping. Okay, so today's teaching is about the letter C, circadian rhythm, understanding what is happening in the different phases of sleep. So understanding that you go through these little cycles, roughly about 90 minutes, and the sleep is different in different phases, and it does different things for us. But also this concept of caffeine. What is it? When do we take it best? When can we use it to our advantage, or when can it really detract from some of the sleeping that we do? Okay, so today is about the letter C. Let us know what's happening in the post, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Sleep well.